again is a very good morning to us all. Our reading was taken from Romans chapter 10, and it was read from verse 17 to verse 17. Only one verse was actually read to us, which actually says, "So faith comes by hearing," according to the English Standard Version, which Brother Ebed read from. It says, "So faith comes by hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ." But the King James Version says, "So faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God." It doesn't really make a difference. There are translations, of course, that are different. So we want actually to have a look at this word that is actually called faith. And of course, our basis is going to be Romans chapter 10, verse 17. "So faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, or the word of Christ," whichever you are actually going to take as your pick. But what is actually important for us to understand is that the word faith that is recorded in our Bible, of course, it has its equivalents in other languages, Greek, for example, Hebrew, and every other language. But in our English, it's actually called faith, and of course, we also have equivalents of it in other local languages. In Shona, they call it Utendo, and in Ndebele, and all the other languages. So we actually want to focus on it firstly in English, because our Bibles are English. Then we can actually try and expand it from that context of the English meaning. Of course, the word faith itself, from the English dictionary, the simplest definition that I actually found there is that it means a complete trust or a complete confidence in someone or in something which is actually based on conviction rather than proof. So this is a complete trust or a complete confidence in somebody or in someone or in something. The faith or the trust or the confidence itself is actually not based on any proof that has occurred, but it's actually based on trust or on conviction rather than it is on proof. Let me give a few examples for us to understand what we are talking about here. A football team, a football coach, every beginning of the season, he actually has about 30 players that he registers as his players that he is going to be using for all the tournaments throughout the season. But at each given time, he is supposed to field only 11 players. So out of 30, you have to choose 11. But for him to be able to choose, he must be having faith in the player that he has chosen on the day that he actually is going to deliver the goods that he wants. So for example, if he wanted a good striker for that game, out of the strikers that he has, probably 5 of them, he actually should have faith in one of them that he is going to deliver the goals. Whether it is a defender or a midfielder, the criteria basically is the same. You need to be having faith. So your choice is actually not based on the previous game, because this is why we actually have seen that the performance of the previous game may not be the exact performance of the next game. So the coach is actually having faith that in this particular game, whose results he doesn't know, this player is actually going to deliver for me. So his choice on the day is not based on what the player did in another match, which is previous match, because he may not be able to reproduce the same form that he had then. So it's actually based on faith today, or it's based on conviction, it's based on confidence and trust that he is going to deliver in this particular match. Let me give you another example. Parents, they have faith in their children, and of course vice versa. Children also have parents in their children have faith in their parents. Parents have faith in their children. Husband has a faith in his wife, and vice versa. The wife also might has faith. I hope they do have faith in their husbands. And of course, it's actually based on a conviction rather than proof, because you are not proving anything about the behavior of your husband going forward. You know what he has done in the past, but that may not always determine what he's going to do in the future. So that is actually giving you a faith that I now believe in him. So it's based on conviction rather than in proof. Every morning, parents actually take their children to school. So when you get to school, you take for example a 4-year-old ECD-A child, you drop them at school at 7, you are going to pick them up at 12 when they've knocked off. You have faith in the teacher not because the teacher has handled your child before, but the very first day you're actually going to drop your child in the face of the teacher, because you actually trust that the teacher is actually going to take care of my child for the next 5 hours until I come back to pick them up at 12. You are actually basing your trust in him or in her on conviction rather than any proof that they've actually done before. And of course, the last thing that I want to give as an example is all drivers who own vehicles. When you want to drive to Masvingo or you want to drive to Harare, for example, you don't know whether your car is going to take you there today. It took you there yesterday, it took you there the other day before, but is it going to take you to Harare today? You don't know. But you actually have faith that if I go in there, I switch it off. I switch it on and I drive it, it should take me to Harare. This is why, of course, if you knew that your vehicle definitely is going to take you to Harare without any hitches, why would you have a breakdown along the way? You have a breakdown because to start off with, you actually had faith that is what it was going to take you to Harare. It's not based on what you did yesterday. It can break down on you today, yet yesterday it actually took you to the same destination. So you are having faith, particularly on this particular journey that you want to embark on. So you are having a trust and confidence in that something which is your car, which is actually based on conviction rather than any proof, because this is a new journey that you actually want to embark on. It's fascinating to me that the word faith, it actually has at least 5 forms in the Bible that are mentioned. Faith as in faith, faithful, or faithfully, faithless, what is the other? Faith, faithful, faithfully, faithless, and I'll probably think about the 5th one. But in all these other forms, it's almost meaning, or it is always referring to basically the same thing. I'm actually trying to come up with a continuation of this probably in the next installment, where we are actually going to continue with this subject, and we are probably going to pick the word faithfully or faithful, which is always used in connection with God, of course, that He is a faithful God, and we'll probably look at that as we actually go forward. But the word faith, as in faith, is actually mentioned, at least in the King James Version, 278 times. If you divide that by the 27 books that we have in the New Testament, that actually gives you an average of about 27 times, about 10 point something times in each of the books. That tells you how repeated this word is. And you don't always repeat something that is not that important. You don't always repeat something that is meaningless. It's repeated because of what it is. It's important. It's mentioned 278 times in the King James Version. I want us to quote a few other passages other than the one that we have already talked about, Romans chapter 10, verse 17, which says, so faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God, or by the word of Christ, according to the ESV. I also want us to hear what Paul and other writers said about faith, not always talking about, because there he is actually telling us about how we get it. But in Galatians chapter 2, verse 16, Paul actually says there, we are justified by faith, or a person is justified by faith. He actually says a person is not justified by the works of the law, but he actually is justified by faith. What does that mean, to be justified by faith? We have acquired faith, at least according to Romans chapter 10, verse 17. But now Paul is telling us that we are actually justified by it. We are not justified by the works of the law, but by faith. Then another writer comes along, the writer of the book of Hebrews, in chapter 11. Of course, we know chapter 11 to be the most popular. If you want to talk about people that have faith, you actually rest on Hebrews chapter 11, because it mentions men and women that were so faithful in their lives, and they are actually mentioned for what they did. And in Hebrews chapter 11, in verse 1, the writer actually tries to define faith for us. Of course, not the English way that I defined it, but he defines faith, and he actually says faith is the assurance of things that are hoped for. And it's actually a conviction of things that are not seen. Faith is the assurance of things that are hoped for, and it is the assurance of things that are not, it is the conviction of things that are not seen. What does that mean? I think it sort of agrees with the fact that you have faith in something that we have not seen. I remember when Jesus was talking to one of his apostles, Thomas, who had not believed that it was him who had actually come in his absence. and he actually wanted some proof from Jesus to show that it was him. Jesus actually said to him, "Blessed are those who believe without seeing." That's basically what faith is. You believe in something before you see it. You believe in something because you know that the person who is talking to you is able to deliver. You believe in God because God is going to deliver on his promises. So faith is the assurance of things that we are hoping for, but it is also the conviction of things that are not yet seen. That's at least what Hebrews chapter 11 verse 1 says. But right about in verse 6 of the same chapter, which is Hebrews chapter 11, the writer actually says to us that it is then impossible to please God without faith. Because the one who wants to please God should actually believe first that God exists and he is able to save those who actually seek him. So it is without faith, it is actually difficult to please God. And then of course James, the writer of the book of James also came around in chapter 2, verse 17, in verse 17, and he actually says, faith without works is dead. So if we have faith, if we have acquired faith according to what Paul has said, but that faith should not just remain as faith, but we actually need to produce works that are in tandem with the faith. Now, I've been trying to think about Romans chapter 10, verse 17, which actually says faith comes by hearing and hearing by the word of God, or faith comes by hearing and hearing through the word of Christ, according to the ESV. And I was saying, okay, what are some of the ways? Because as people that actually proclaim and profess to be Christians ourselves, there should be a way in which we acquire faith. Yes, the Apostle Paul has actually told us how we acquire faith. That is at least in chapter 10 of the book of Romans in verse 17, where he actually says faith comes by hearing. And what we hear is nothing else except the word of God. At least that is the faith that will give us salvation. We can have faith in any other story. You can get old ladies that are actually talking folk tales, and you can still have faith in them. But what the apostle is talking about is not that faith. He is actually talking about the faith that is going to bring salvation to you, salvation to me. So that's what we acquire from the Bible. Any other faith that we get outside of the Bible cannot save us surely, because it is faith. Am I saying we should not have faith other than the faith of the Bible? No. We can have faith, like I was mentioning, that you have faith in your car, you have faith in your parent, you have faith in your child, you have faith in the teacher of your child. You need to have that faith because it assists us as we are living. But the only faith that is going to save us when Jesus comes is the one that we actually acquire in the manner that the apostle is actually talking about in chapter 10 of the book of Romans. But I want to suggest 4 ways that I actually discovered to be the only 4. You might find 5, you might find more, you might find less. That's fine. We can always share that in future. But for now, I'm going to propose 4 that I found, which are the best ways in getting faith, or which are the main ways in which how we can actually acquire faith from the word of God. The first way, of course, that I actually have here is from the pulpit. Like now, when a preacher stands up in front of us and he is speaking to us, we might gather faith from what he is actually saying. Of course, to me, that is not the best way of acquiring faith. I will give you an example. The reason why I'm actually saying that. On January the 6th, if my memory serves me very well, that was the first Sunday of the year 2019. I was the first speaker, and I stood behind here, this very pulpit, and I was speaking to you. And my subject of the day was we should learn to thank God for things that he has already done to us, rather than complaining for things that he has not yet done for us. So I proposed a few other things that we always take for granted, and I said these are some of the things that we should thank God for, because he has already done those things for us. About a month later, which was last week, we had a blockbuster of a sermon from Mark, who was also standing behind me, and he was sort of talking about the same subject of learning how to thank God. My question then is, how many, when Mark started talking on Sunday, how many of you remembered that on the 6th, just about a month ago, somebody actually talked about the same subject? I don't think all of us, I don't think many of us remembered that. So this is why I'm saying the pulpit preaching is not the best way then to acquire faith. Because the rate of forgetting obviously depends on. Right now, maybe I'm actually reminding some of you. How many still remember that Mike was talking about how to thank God just last week? Probably very few, probably all of us, I don't know. But my point is, we don't always remember what is said by a preacher when he is preaching from the pulpit. But of course, that's just one of the ways to acquire faith. The next way that I have is, of course, social gathering. I mean, we always gather either at work or at a funeral or wherever. There is attendance. Whenever people gather, when people are talking, it has always become a norm that one or two of them will actually start a Bible discussion. Or somebody actually makes reference to the Bible, whether he's making reference to the Bible correctly or wrongly, but people actually do that, particularly at funerals, to the extent that almost every other time the Bible discussion actually starts, simply because somebody makes a reference to that. There are some that actually can get some faith out of that, because you are actually talking about the Word of God. Of course, that again is not the best way of getting faith, because in as much as you might get one or two bits of faith from the discussion, but it's not always everything that actually is being said there which actually will make sense. Then the third way that actually I have here is reading and studying on your own when you are at home. This is one of the best ways, of course, of getting faith for yourselves, because you actually need to enrich yourself while you are reading the Bible, while you are at home, while you are studying. You should always read the Bible. I know, of course, Christians don't always read the Bible, to the fact that some other person was saying, even if you were to make a bed with Bible verses, maybe somebody's sheets, your bed sheets were written in inscriptions of Bible verses, you would actually find out that the sheet is actually going to be torn before you even know one of the verses that actually is inscribed there. It's really true, because Christians don't have a tendency of reading the Bible, yet to me it is actually the second best way of actually acquiring faith. Because we need to enrich ourselves, we need to study, we need to read the Bible on our own. But again, I'm saying that is not the best way of acquiring faith. I'm saying that because of this. If you are reading your Bible and you stumble upon a passage that you can explain yourself, and if your only way of acquiring faith or knowledge of the Word of God is to read on your own, what are you going to do? You are stuck. So you cannot actually expound it further than we have gone, because this passage is not very clear with you. What are you going to do? So that cannot be the only way. To me, wrong or right, this is what I think is the best way of acquiring knowledge or acquiring faith, which comes by hearing and hearing the Word of God. The fourth way, which I have here, is what I think is the best. The one that I was talking about, reading and studying on your own, I think it's second best. And of course, the social gathering, the pulpit to me is a distant third. And of course, social gathering, I think, is the fourth, according to my list. The best, which I believe is the best, I'll stand to be corrected there, is the Bible classes. I don't know how many of you are actually going to agree with me, but I will try and put forward my arguments for you to understand what I mean by that. In a Bible study, we actually have an opportunity to express ourselves. I think we saw that this morning in our Bible study. To those that were here, you actually saw that this is the only time, at least, that we have to share notes. You share notes unlimited. You share notes without restrictions. Right now, if I were to say something, very rarely do you find one of you raising up their hand and saying, "Look, Mr. Preacher, can you stand there? I think what you are saying is not right." You will only get an opportunity probably to come to me and say, "That was good, that was bad," at the end. But that does not correct the message to everybody who is here. Because what they would have heard is what they are going to carry on. You are only going to come to me and we are probably going to converse, the two of us. So that is not going to be cascaded down to everybody who heard what I said. But in a Bible class, if I don't agree, if I don't understand what the preacher is saying, I raise up my hand and I say, "Mr. Preacher, can you expand that? I don't understand what you are saying." If I understand what he is saying and I also have something to add to there, I always raise up my hand and I will say, "That's very good, but let us look at that from this other angle as well." I think that's the essence of Bible studies anyway. Bible classes, the ones that I'm calling Bible classes. So that to me makes them the best way of actually getting faith. As Paul says, faith comes from hearing. How do we hear the word? We hear the word from the pulpit. We hear the word when we are gathered socially. We hear the word when we are reading and studying on our own. We also hear the word when we are studying together as a family. In any case, there is an English which says, birds of the same feathers flock together. So if you are birds of the same feathers, you should start together and share notes. But we don't always see that happening amongst Christians. Hillside is one of those congregations that is affected by this, and every other congregation, I believe, they are also affected by this. What is the cause? I would not be able to tell the cause for this, but this is my proposal to you, fellow brethren. I want you to think hard about this. Think hard about the 4 ways that I've actually proposed, and pick what you think is the best way for you to get knowledge. If you believe when the preacher is preaching from the pulpit, that's the best time that you actually get knowledge, that's okay. If you believe you get knowledge and information when you are gathered socially, that's okay. If you think reading and studying on your own is the time that you get knowledge, again, that's your own. If you believe like me that the best time probably to get unlimited knowledge is when you are doing Bible classes, again, that's okay. But then, whatever way that you choose, if it's not the Bible classes, then ask yourself a further question and say, when I've gathered this information, when I've gathered this knowledge, from whatever source, what am I doing with the knowledge? Because I believe, if I get knowledge, I should be able to have an edge in me, which is actually telling me that go to your fellow friends and share the knowledge with them. Because your knowledge is going to be useless, honestly, if you don't share it with everybody. I hope you understand what I'm saying. If a teacher goes to college and they graduate and they don't go and they practice teaching, their qualification is useless, isn't it? It only becomes useful if they go and teach, if they go and impart knowledge to somebody, if they go and share knowledge with somebody. I'm talking about this because I'm saying, if you have knowledge that you have acquired from any other way, and you still don't bring that knowledge to Hillside here, and you share it with the rest, then your knowledge is only benefiting yourself and no one else. Is that what you want? Do you want the knowledge to benefit yourself and it doesn't benefit others? Or your knowledge at least should benefit everybody? Because that's the way we can actually help each other to go to heaven. I wouldn't want to be in heaven on my own, neither do you want to be in heaven on your own. So you want to go with me, and I also want to go with you. If possible, whatever I have, let me share it with you, so that we are actually at par. This past the whole year, starting from September, I believe 2017, we actually embarked on a journey of studying the book of Acts. I still believe, because there are some that have actually brought their feedback and they have said, we have seen things that we did not see before in the book of Acts. I thank you for coming and giving me that feedback. But I still believe that I think at least we learned 1 or 2 things from that study. So if you did not embark onto that study together with everybody, what that means then, this is natural, is you are behind. You did not run with everybody at the same pace. You are behind. But somebody may say, no, I'm not behind, because I actually know the book of Acts more than anyone else here. Again, that's fine, that's acceptable. But still, the point is, you are not at the same par with everybody. Either you are behind or you are too far ahead. For you to be at the same pace with everybody, you still need to know to bring that knowledge which you have more than everybody else to the table, and you share it with everybody, so that we are actually going to be working together. If you have more knowledge than everybody else, because I've heard a lot of people, some preachers of course, saying that I didn't go to that meeting because I don't think I was really going to get anything, because I think I know what they were going to discuss. That's being rude. I think that's being very rude, because at each gathering, you are always going to learn something. That brings me to the experiment of the paraphernalia that I actually have in front of you. I was reading somewhere, I didn't see it practically, so I'm trying to implement it practically. I saw it somewhere I read it somewhere where a teacher was with his class, and he actually said to his class, he called one pupil, and he gave him some pebbles like this, rock pebbles, and he actually said, put them in a container, and the young man put them in a container, putting them in a container, and the young man stopped and he said, the container is full. Then the teacher said, okay, go back and sit down. Then he called another pupil and he said, come, and the people came, and he gave him smaller pebbles like this, and he said, please, can you put them in? Let's see if the container is full. So this other young man was able to put them in. He kept putting them in, and of course shaking to make sure that they actually go down and settle. And the young man stopped and he said, the tin is full. Then the teacher said, go sit down. He went and he sat down and he called another people and he gave them smaller pebbles like this, finer sand. And he said, let's see if you can put them in. And the young man continued and he was putting them in. He was able to put quite a significant amount. Then the tin is full, said, go and sit down. And he then called another pupil who should be first, second, third, the fourth one. And he said, please see if you can put that water in there. And the young man came. Over half of the bottle was actually able to go in there. What was the point of this teacher? So he actually summarized his point and he said, what I wanted you to see was that this is exactly what happens with knowledge. The moment that you think you are overfilled with knowledge, you actually don't know everything. Because if you go to a certain gathering of the same field that you are, if you were an engineer, for example, the moment that you graduate from a university, you think you now know everything. But the moment that you go for a refresher course of the same field, do you think you're going to learn something new? Certainly yes. Because your mind cannot carry everything. There could be something that you actually learned at school that you did not quite grasp, that you are going to grasp it because you are now outside of the school environment. So he was actually trying to show them that knowledge is actually like that. In Shona, we actually say, you always learn. Doesn't matter how old you are always learning. Because your brain cannot contain, it's never clogged with knowledge. It always gives some gaps where you can fill in some knowledge. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about that because we have had people in the past who actually tell you that I don't have any reason to go in that study because I don't have anything to learn. You always have a lot to learn if you were to go in such a study. I will tell you that. You know, I was humbled in 2016. I will tell you this story, and I'll try to be quick with it. I think that was 2016 in October. I was actually visiting South Africa. I visited Durban, and I went to Cape Town, Joburg, then I came back home. So in Durban, I was actually being hosted by the kind of Ped himself. And I arrived there on a Friday, and the Saturday they actually took me out to Pietermaritzburg, outside there where there is this site that is called Mandela Capture Site, where Mandela was actually captured. So it has actually become a tourist attraction. So we went there and we came back. Sunday definitely was going to be a church day. So when Ped and Sandy were staying in South Africa, they actually worshipped twice every Sunday at a congregation that was called Silver, that is still called Silver Glen, and at a congregation that was called Manas Road. It's now called Pine Town, which is where their membership was. So in the morning they would actually go to Silver Glen. Then in the afternoon they would actually come to Manas Road or to Pine Town. It was called Manas Road because it was situated along Manas Road. Mrs. Eddy was there one time. So they took me to Silver Glen and I was asked to preach there and I preached. And we came back home with lunch. Pine Town or Manas Road was starting at 3. We went there, and when we got there I was asked to preach and I preached. Then on Monday, there are several congregations in Durban town. So on Monday, one congregation that is called Chatsworth was having their Bible class. So Ped and Sandy would actually attend and they were always teaching in that Bible class. So we went on Monday evening for that Bible class, and I was asked to speak and I spoke. On Tuesday, what I believe to be the biggest congregation in South Africa, if not Southern Africa, I don't know, they are really big, Phoenix. And on the day, it was on a Tuesday, they actually had about 60 strong old people that actually had come. And I'm told on a good day, they are arranging old people, by old I mean those that are Christians already, not counting the children. They are almost 120, 130. That's their membership. They even have elders. They are by far the biggest congregation in terms of maturity and in terms of number in South Africa. So I was actually asked to preach before those 60 strong crowd. I preached on the night and we went back home. And on Wednesday, because I was actually going to leave on Thursday, so on Wednesday, Manasod itself was actually having their own midweek Bible study. So I was also asked to speak, and I went there and I spoke. So at least 5 times I was able to preach. But what actually humbled me is the fact that every other time that I stood and I was going to say something, Ped was seated somewhere there and he had a small notebook and he had his pen and he was writing something. So when I was supposed to leave on Tuesday, I was supposed to leave at 11:30. I was getting into a Greyhound of 11:30 from Durban to Cape Town. But of course we were delayed. We only left at 6 p.m. But Fed had already taken me to the bus station, hoping that I was leaving at 11:30. But as we were having breakfast on that Thursday, they sat with me, Ped and Sandy, and they actually thanked me for visiting them, and they thanked me for a good job according to them, which I did. And so Ped specifically said to me that I learned a lot of things from your presentation. You have, according to him, you have matured. The last time that we saw you when we were in Zimbabwe, we have actually done a better job than you used to do then. So I learned a lot of things, and he actually went through his diary with me, and he actually said, look, these are the lesson outlines, or sermon outlines that I actually got from what you were saying. I looked at him and I said, can Ped be serious? Because looking at Petty, all of us know him. He is one of those men that we hold in high esteem at Hillside and all over the world. In any case, he is one of the best preachers, the biggest names in preaching for the Church of Christ, if you want to call it that way. He is somebody that you are able to listen to almost every time, and you are not going to be bored, because he is such a gifted and talented speaker, gifted, talented teacher. We know that. Again, this is a man who is in the same league in terms of age with my father, who is even slightly older than my father. He actually says he has been a Christian since he was a boy, and before he even got married. So when he got married, he actually continued preaching for over 40 years before I even became a Christian myself. But this is a man who actually is sitting me down, and he is actually saying he learned something from me. Does that make sense? It actually comes back to exactly what this teacher was actually saying. It doesn't mean that Petty was blank in the head. But there is something, there is a new dimension that is always brought by somebody. Unknown source will actually bring you something to you. You always, and the best time for you to get that knowledge, I still believe, stand to be corrected, is when we come here for a Bible class. So if you are not coming for a Bible class yourself, for reasons, of course, better known to you, I just want to propose and suggest that there is something that you are actually missing out, which might actually be very important in your life going forward as a Christian. Because we need to be Christians the way the Bible teaches. So, whenever, I remember what David once said in one of the Psalms when he actually said, I rejoiced when somebody came to me and they said, let's go to the house of the Lord. Do we always rejoice when somebody comes and says there is an opportunity for you to go to the house of the Lord to learn? Do we always rejoice? Or we are always occupied and busy doing some other things somewhere? I know, of course, we have personal reasons that we might probably not divulge. I know some of the reasons that have already been given forward. Some for being absent, the preacher was boring. I'm not defending preachers, but what I'm suggesting is if a preacher was boring, please let us help the preachers ourselves. Let us give them the content, because we can actually make the studies exciting ourselves. Let us give them the content. Let us actually put them on their toes so that they are going to research further. If I am going to say the presentation is boring and I stay away, is the man who is boring you ever going to know that he was boring? Except if you come forward to them and say you were really boring. Those are some of the reasons that have been put forward. Some of the reasons is we are rushing home because we want to meet up with family. We have family members that are visiting us today for lunch. That's okay. Is family important? The answer is yes. But is family more important than God? The answer is no. So if I have business to take care of, God's business, Why don't I take care of that business first before I can take care of my family? Because in any case, that family will also need God. So let me send a good signal to them. Let me send a good message to them that if you would want to come to my house on a Sunday, I'm sorry you may not be able to find me because I will be at church. They should know that. But instead, we actually compromise God's business for the family, for lunch. Some is just tradition because some people actually are just saying, okay, I have not done this, so I'm not going to do it. Why are you not doing it? Because I've never done it before. Tradition, custom, culture, at times which actually leads us to know. What is my point? My point is this. When we are Christians, the way we proclaim to be, Christianity does not start with what we now know as the church service. Neither does it stop with what we call the church service. Christianity embraces everything. Christianity embraces all the activities that if you want to loosely use this word, my church does. So in this case, loosely speaking again, my church is Hillside. So whatever program that Hillside puts in, my Christianity is going to be determined by my participation in those programs. Unless if they become evil programs, then I'm not bound by them. But if they are Christian programs to try and enhance, I talked about what the writer of the book of 1 Thessalonians, Paul, that is once said in chapter 1, when he was actually commending a church in Thessalonica. And what did he say about them? He actually said the faith of all Macedonia did not only come from you. In fact, the word actually sounded from you to the extent that it had effect to all Macedonia. One, because there was a congregation which was organized. There was a congregation whose members was organized. There was a congregation whose members were working together for one cause, the cause of Christ. This is the reason why we come here. We come here for the cause of Christ. Not for my cause, not for your cause, but for the cause of Christ. But for the cause of Christ, it needs you, it needs me. Let's put our heads together as we try to acquire knowledge, because there is no time that knowledge is going to be more than enough. We will always need knowledge. I then humbly come to you in my parting words and say, please let's reconsider and revisit our ways. I don't know the reason, the main reason why you haven't been coming for the Bible classes, either the morning one or the after service one or any other service that is. I don't know the reason. You know the reason better. But my suggestion is this. Please, may you go and revisit your reason. May you go and reconsider. Please weigh your reason. Is it worthwhile or is not? Don't just be stuck in tradition. Don't just be stuck in culture. Don't just be stuck in custom. Revisit that. Consider and ask yourself this question, which is going to be my final question. What is better, to be in church where the preacher is boring than to be at home where your television is entertaining you? Which place might be better? For me, I would rather be in church where the preacher is boring than to be at home where I think my television is entertaining me, where I think anything else is entertaining me. Because chances are very high that while I am away from church, many temptations are actually going to befall me. But while we are in church, at least you know that it's temptation proof, so to speak, because you are actually focused on studying the Word of God. If Christ would come while others are gathered here for a study, and I am actually at home for reasons better known to myself, do I think that Christ is going to say, good, you are my faithful servant, because you are actually at home, you are not in a Bible class, when your congregation is actually conducting a Bible class? I think those are some of the questions that we just need to ask ourselves going forward, because I hope they are actually going to help me, and they are also going to help you as I rest my case there. Thank you very much.